My name is Nora Whitfield. I was 32 when my mother locked me inside a hotel storage room while I was in labor, because my sister's wedding was 40 minutes from starting. I woke up under cold hospital lights. My abdomen throbbed with every breath. A monitor beeped beside me. My mother, Marion, stood at the foot of the bed. My father, Thomas, behind her. My sister, Lila, still in the lower half of her wedding gown, a cardigan thrown over her shoulders. None of them asked how I felt. My mother leaned in. "Before you say anything, I was trying to prevent a panic. Please don't call the police." I couldn't process the words. All I remembered was a storage room floor and blood spreading across my dress. "Where's my baby?" No one answered. That silence terrified me more than the pain did. Then the door opened. Adrian, my husband of 8 years, walked in, shirt wrinkled, eyes red, wearing an expression I had never seen on him before. He looked past me, straight at my mother, and said something that ended every excuse she'd prepared and silenced my entire family. But I still didn't know how he'd found out the truth, or whether the delay had cost our daughter her life. Before I tell you how I ended up in that bed, if you believe family should never be an excuse for deliberate harm, stick with me. Because that day forced me to decide whether keeping the peace was worth risking my child's life. 40 minutes before the ceremony, I was 38 weeks and 2 days pregnant. My doctor had warned me, regular contractions, bleeding, or fluid loss meant get to a hospital immediately. I'd repeated that instruction to my mother and Lila more than once. They heard me. They just assumed the wedding would outrank it. At Briar Glen Hotel, I'd spent the morning managing everything Lila refused to handle herself. Vendors, relatives, rings. That was our family's arithmetic. My mother decided what mattered. My father never disagreed with her. Lila's feelings were everyone's emergency, and I was the one who absorbed whatever was left over. "You're doing too much," Adrian told me that morning, watching me press a hand to my back. I promised Lila. "You also promised me you'd leave if anything felt wrong." "I will. One message and I'll come." Marion appeared behind him. "The guests are being seated. Nora needs to help Lila." Adrian looked at me, not her. But he left, because he knew confronting my mother directly only ended with me apologizing for a fight I never started. Lila emerged from behind a dressing screen, gown perfect, and eyed me sitting down like it was a personal inconvenience. "You're not going to disappear on me, are you?" Not concern. A demand that my body behave itself for 1 more hour. "If something happens, I'll tell you," I said. The first contraction hit before she'd even finished answering. A band of pressure closed around my abdomen. I gripped the table until it passed. Then warmth ran down my leg, and blood on my fingers when I touched my thigh. My doctor's warning echoed in my head. I reached for my phone. Marion caught my wrist. "I need Adrian," I said. "Are you sure?" Another contraction bent me double. When it passed, my hands were shaking. "I need to go to the hospital, right now." Lila went pale. "But the ceremony starts in 40 minutes. Marion's face shifted into the calm, controlling mask she wore whenever reality didn't cooperate with her schedule. "We are not bringing an ambulance through a lobby full of guests," she said. "There's a quiet room down the service corridor. I'll get Adrian. We'll get you out the side entrance without alarming 200 people." I should have called Adrian myself right then. I should have refused to move. But my mother had managed every crisis of my life, and some stubborn part of me still believed she wouldn't knowingly put me in danger. I let her lead me down the corridor. She used her event coordinator access card to open a gray door. Inside, stacked linens, sealed boxes, floral stands, gift containers. No windows, no phone. "This is a storage room. It's private. Sit for 1 minute while I call Adrian." I kept my phone in my hand. She reached for it. "I need to explain where we are so he doesn't come barging through the ballroom." "I'll tell him myself." "Nora, stop making this harder." She pulled it from my grip. I moved toward her. A contraction dropped me against a stack of boxes instead. The door began to close. "Wait. Leave it open." "Through the narrowing gap," she said. "Lila gets one ceremony, Nora. This cannot become about you. The door shut, the lock engaged. I thought it was a mistake at first. I pulled the handle, nothing. Mom, open the door. Her footsteps kept moving away. You need to calm down. I can't have you stopping the ceremony. You locked me in. Give me my phone. No answer, just her footsteps, fading into the sound of the wedding beginning without me. I searched every corner for another way out. There wasn't one. Just a narrow vent near the ceiling and the swelling sound of music through the walls. I pounded on the door until my palms ached. Somebody help me. Nothing. Outside, my mother unlocked my phone with the passcode she'd learned during wedding prep and sent a message pretending to be me. I'm lying down for a while. Mom is with me. Please don't interrupt the ceremony. Adrian replied instantly. Are you having contractions? Where are you? She answered again as me. I'm fine. I need space. Don't come looking for me. That was the message that first made him suspicious. I never told him to stay away. Not when it mattered. He called. She rejected it, powered the phone off, and buried it among the wedding gifts. Inside the room, I waited for a ring that never came. I screamed until my throat burned. I slammed a floral stand against the door hard enough that the sound should have carried through the whole building. No one came. Near the ballroom, Lila asked if everything was under control. Marian told her I was resting and didn't want the ceremony delayed. Lila, who had seen the blood, seen me in pain, didn't ask where I actually was. My father accepted Marian's word without checking, the way he always did. The ceremony began on schedule. I knew, because the music changed. The processional. Then the officiant's voice, muffled through the wall. My sister walked toward the altar while I was locked in a room full of boxes. Then the pain changed. Sharper. Constant. I looked down and saw blood. Not a streak this time. Enough to darken the floor. I knew instantly what that could mean for the placenta, for oxygen, for my daughter. I dragged myself to the door and screamed again. Footsteps passed in the corridor and kept walking, swallowed by applause from the ballroom. I slid down against the door. My baby moved once beneath my hand. Then, for a long, terrible stretch, I felt nothing at all. Downstairs, Adrian read the second message again and knew it wasn't me. I would never tell him not to search for me while unwell. He left his seat, found the bridal room empty, found Marian instead. Where is Nora? Resting, she asked for privacy. Where? She wouldn't say. My father echoed her. She's being looked after, and hesitated just long enough for Adrian to understand that no one actually knew where I was. Adrian stopped asking my family for permission to worry. He found Rachel Kim, the hotel's operations manager, and told her his full-term pregnant wife had vanished. Rachel didn't ask him to protect the wedding. She asked for facts. Last seen where, with whom, did she have her phone? She checked the security system. No record of me leaving through any monitored exit. But the corridor camera showed my mother walking me toward the secured section and returning alone, my phone in her hand. The access logs showed Marian's credential opening the storage room. No second entry after that. Rachel didn't bother confronting her. She grabbed the master key and led Adrian down the corridor herself. By then, I could no longer stand. I was on my side near the door, one hand under my abdomen, the other reaching toward the strip of light at the threshold. The last thing I remember is the cold floor against my cheek. The lock released. Rachel found me unconscious. Adrian saw the blood and dropped to the floor beside me while she called for paramedics and cleared the corridor. The ceremony could no longer be shielded from what was happening down the hall. As paramedics lifted me onto the stretcher, Rachel asked Adrian one question. Was she placed there voluntarily? No, he said. She was trying to call me. Rachel preserved the footage, secured the logs, and filed an independent police report before the ambulance had even left the property. Whatever my mother would later beg me not to do, the decision was already out of her hands. I don't remember the ambulance. I know only what Adrian and the doctors told me later. My blood pressure was crashing. The fetal monitor showed distress. The diagnosis: placental abruption. Part of the placenta had torn away, cutting off oxygen while I kept bleeding. There was no time to wait. I went into emergency surgery while Adrian sat outside doors he wanted to tear down with his bare hands, not knowing if he was about to lose his wife, his daughter, or both. Our daughter Elise was delivered while I was still unconscious and rushed to neonatal care. Hours later, I opened my eyes to the scene where this story began, my mother asking me not to call the police. My question about my baby met with silence. Adrian took my hand. Elise is alive. She's stable. I broke apart with relief, sobbing under the hospital blanket. For a few seconds there was nothing else in the world. Then Adrian looked past me, at my mother. It's already too late, Marion. Rachel reported the confinement before the ambulance left. The hotel kept the footage and the access logs. And I still have every message you sent from Nora's phone. The room went silent. My mother's face drained of color. I did not confine her, she said. I put her somewhere quiet because she was panicking. She was found unconscious behind a locked door, so she could rest. You told me not to search for her. I was trying to protect the family. That answer hurt worse than if she'd simply said she didn't care. She had protected the ballroom, the flowers, the schedule, the version of herself who never lost control in public. My daughter and I hadn't been part of what she considered worth saving. Lila stepped in. I didn't know she'd locked you in. You knew I was bleeding. You knew I asked for Adrian. And you decided it wasn't your problem to check. She started crying. I was about to get married. So you decided you didn't need to know what she'd done. My father tried to smooth it over. We're all upset, until I looked at him and said the only mistake here was pretending that impersonating me and hiding me from my husband was an accident. A nurse came in and asked my family to leave. My mother tried to argue that she had rights as my mother. I told the nurse I wanted all three of them out. It felt like a foreign sentence in my mouth. It was also the first honest one I'd said to them in years. The doctors later explained that the abruption might have started regardless of where I was, but the delay had let the bleeding and fetal distress continue untreated. Earlier intervention would have reduced the risk. My mother hadn't caused the medical emergency. She had chosen to prevent me from getting help during it. The next day, in a wheelchair, I finally saw Elise in the neonatal unit. Impossibly small, wired to monitors, an ID band around her tiny ankle matching the one on my wrist. When her fingers closed around mine, something in me settled. I didn't need to be Marion's good daughter anymore. I needed to be Elise's mother. And a mother doesn't teach her child that loyalty means silence about the people who put her in danger. The evidence built itself without needing much from me. The corridor footage, the access logs, one entry, no second entry, until Rachel unlocked it. The fabricated texts, timestamped to the exact minutes I was screaming for help. Every choice my mother made had a timestamp, and the timestamps told a story no apology could undo. She took my phone, locked the door, sent the first fake message, rejected Adrian's call, sent the second fake message, powered the phone off, and walked back to the wedding. She could have reversed course at any one of those moments. She never did. Investigators also found a message Lila had sent our mother before the wedding. Please don't let Nora's pregnancy stop the ceremony. I can't have everything become about her again. It didn't prove Lila asked for what happened to me. It explained exactly what my mother believed she was protecting. When I confronted her, Lila said she never meant for Mom to hurt me. She only meant keep things calm. Then she added that involving the police was making everything worse. Worse for who? I asked. She's our mother, Lila said. And Elise is my daughter. I hung up. My father visited with flowers and a letter from my mother, older looking than I remembered him. She's frightened, he said. She could go to prison. I could have died. Elise could have died. I know. But you're still here, asking me to protect her. I asked him where his mercy had been when Adrian came looking for me. He had no answer, only quiet tears. Real regret, but not enough to make him safe to trust. I told him I needed distance. Relatives called for weeks with the same requests dressed differently. Marion was devoted. Marion panicked. Cooperating would humiliate the family, ruin Lila's wedding memories. No one could explain why preserving those memories required my silence about nearly losing my daughter. Adrian never told me what to decide. If you don't cooperate, I'll respect that. If you do, I'll be beside you. But this choice belongs to you. When I asked what he'd do, he said, I'd tell the truth. But you're not deciding her punishment. You're deciding whether the people responsible get to hear it. I gave my full statement. The contractions, the blood, the phone taken from my hand, the lock engaging, my mother's voice through the door. I didn't exaggerate. The facts were damning enough on their own. Marion was charged with felony unlawful restraint and reckless endangerment. Her attorney first argued she'd only offered me a quiet place to rest, an explanation that collapsed the moment the fake messages and rejected calls were laid out in order. No one who believes someone is voluntarily resting impersonates them to keep her husband away. She eventually pleaded guilty. The sentence included custody time, supervised probation, restitution, and a no-contact order protecting me and Elise. In her statement, she spoke about the wedding's cost and the pressure she'd felt. Even her apology stayed fixed on the event she'd tried to save. The wedding survived. Our family didn't. Briar Glen cooperated fully and tightened its access protocols afterward. Rachel never inserted herself into our family's mess. She simply refused to let an unconscious pregnant woman behind a locked door become a story someone got to control. Lila stayed married, but admitted every time she looked at her wedding photos she remembered where I'd been while they were taken. She wrote apologies. I read them. I didn't restore contact. My father stayed with my mother and kept asking, gently, if the no-contact order might someday soften. He still wanted reconciliation before safety had even been rebuilt. I kept my distance. Cutting contact didn't feel triumphant. I missed the mother I'd hoped she could become. I missed my father's quieter kindness, even knowing now how little it had actually protected me. But missing someone isn't the same as it being safe to let them back in. My body healed faster than the fear did. Closed doors made my pulse spike. A dead phone screen could drop me straight back into that storage room. I started trauma therapy and learned that healing didn't require minimizing what happened. Adrian never tried to manage me. He asked what I needed and let me answer. Elise stayed under observation for months. Every follow-up terrified me until, eventually, the doctors confirmed no permanent injury. She grew stronger. She learned to grip one of my fingers in her sleep, exactly like she had the first time I touched her hand through the incubator opening. Months later, I sat on our living room sofa with Elise against my chest. Our 2 matching hospital ID bands kept safe in a small box on the table, my phone fully charged and within reach. Adrian checked the front door before heading into the kitchen. I stood instead, carried Elise to the door myself, and turned the lock from the inside. The same quiet mechanical click I'd heard at Briar Glen. But this door was mine. My phone was in my hand. My daughter was safe against my shoulder. And this time, the lock didn't take my choice away. It protected it.